Well, I have some words of wisdom from children for you this morning. I remember a couple of these from childhood. 7 pieces of wisdom from children. If your sister hits you, don't hit her back. They always catch the second person. I remember that one. When your mom is mad at your dad, don't let her brush your hair. Never ask your 3-year-old brother to hold a tomato. You can't trust dogs to watch your food. Don't sneeze when someone is cutting your hair. Never hold a dustbuster and a cat at the same time. Words of wisdom. And finally, you can't hide a piece of broccoli in a glass of milk. It's true. Words to live by from children. I like that. Well, we're sort of talking a little bit about wisdom like that, guidance, strong supports in our lives, the guiding wisdom that comes to us from all kinds of sources. I will be there with sort of a nice choice song in that regard. There's something for us that's there for us in times of trouble and in all the everyday moments of our lives. And thank God there's more than one. We have a lot of anchors and moorings in our lives that are really all God in expression, God in action flowing through us and just finding us through many different channels and in many guises. I love this word mooring, and that's the one I've been kind of thinking about as a metaphor this week. A mooring is a place where a boat or a ship, I think that they might even use it with aircraft, but where it is moored, typically secured by rope or a cable or something, and it's a stable place away from the weather, a place where there are resources like fuel at hand, and so it's a place of security and stability, a mooring. It's very similar to the word anchor, and there's often an anchor involved in a mooring. It's you're supported there, you're secure and stable there. So a mooring or an anchor, it's about a source of security or stability in our lives. And in our spiritual work, all our growth work, it's so important to feel anchored, to have moorings, and to feel that, particularly when you're going through times of change or confusion. Scripture, of course, is full of this truth that God can be a mooring for us. Like in this scripture from Hebrews 6, God can be a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. A sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. Fortunately, we have the opportunity throughout our lives to feel that kind of mooring through people, through places, through communities, even through words or images. All can be moorings for us because God flows through us all. It's a God-infused universe. So there are many moorings for us. This came to me, a nice example of this a week or so ago. People are moorings for us in our lives. And I hadn't thought about it quite that way before. We went to a memorial in Chapel Hill last weekend for a 99-year-old aunt of mine, Aunt Helen. And so it was an opportunity to see family and to celebrate a gracious life well lived. My Aunt Helen had, although born in upstate New York, she had lived most of her life in the South, in New Orleans for many, many years, then Chapel Hill. And she was just a gracious Southern lady, just noted for her unfailing graciousness and kindness, a kind of unflappable graciousness, which I much admired, and great patience. She was a doctor's wife, and so had to have a lot of patience with, missed dinners and missed appointments and all kinds of hospitality requirements at the drop of a hat. And she was a talented artist, particularly with watercolors, which is quite a demanding medium to pursue. Very, very talented, but never somehow or other made a show of that in any way. She was a very humble person with like great strength and power in a very gentle guise. So she will be much missed by all of us who knew and loved her. My cousin's husband said this at the memorial. He said, let Helen be a mooring within you. Isn't that a nice way to think of someone who has served as a wonderful model or mentor for us? We can remember that. We can remember that spirit and bring it back into our minds when we have need of that kind of mooring. It's a nice way of thinking about a mooring. So I've been thinking about, there's been many people in my life like that, and I bet in yours as well, who have been moorings for you. I was thinking about a dear minister friend. He passed just this past year, but Reverend Ed Tuttle was an important minister in my life, a Science of Mind church I attended for a number of years. I was in my 20s back in those days, and he modeled, Aunt Helen modeled a kind of mooring having to do with kindness and patience and graciousness under pressure. Ed Tuttle modeled a kind of a similar grace under pressure, but something about knowing about the power of truth and holding on to it and what that can make happen. He told the story more than once in the years I knew him as a minister here in Columbus of a time in his earlier adulthood when he had been in a terrible motorcycle accident, terribly injured and hospitalized for months and not expected to walk again. That's what they all told him. But he was fairly recently completed his practitioner studies in science of mind, and he would not accept those prognoses, and he was very, very certain and consistent and determined in his affirmations of the truth he was holding, which was that he was going to be fine again. There was a power in him that was immense and stronger than any challenge, and it was at work now, and it was already restoring him cell by cell and muscle by muscle and organ by organ to perfect wholeness and well-being again, and he was so certain about it. Everyone who cared for him was much impressed with his determined holding on to that vision and that truth, and of course it worked, and of course he was restored to wholeness, and he drew on that demonstration in his ministry to others for the rest of his life. What he modeled for me, he was a mooring for me in this ability to walk by faith and not by sight, not just by the appearances and being thrown by them, but by what you know inside and what you feel inside, and holding to that truth despite temporary and current appearances. That's a mooring for me. That's a mooring I've been enjoying for years. Unity was really founded as a result of a mooring that happened for Myrtle Fillmore, who was kind of the person through whom Unity, with the inception came. She had been had a tubercular condition her whole life and had always been told not to expect that she would live very long. You've all heard this story probably more than once. So she was, frail of health, struggling. She and Charles married and went to a lot of lectures and took in a lot of spiritual teachings, trying to figure out how to help make herself well, and went to a lecture by a Reverend E.B. Weeks, who said something that just resonated with her, words that resonated with her, and became an anchor for her. He said, "You are a child of God, but you do not inherit sickness." You are a child of God and you do not inherit sickness. It became an anchor within her, she said. And she kept working with those words, letting them sink in. I am a child of God and I do not inherit sickness. She said it held her mind above negation. It held her mind above negation. And she experienced healing of her tubercular condition and lived a long life, lived into ripe old age. Charles got interested in Unity as a result of her experience and began similar work, healing work of his own. They began prayer work with Silent Unity. They began writing and publishing, and Unity was born as the result of these words that were a mooring for Myrtle Fillmore. That's remarkable, what a word can do that resonates with us, that we claim as truth and let anchor us inside and hold it deeply inside. I think because of that inception, how Unity started, it's why Unity's always practiced affirmations and emphasized them pretty strongly. Affirmation is just, words that anchor us. And we will often claim one that's exactly what we need to claim at the moment. If we're feeling lacking, we claim abundance. If we claim, if we're experiencing some kind of temporary ill health, we claim wholeness and powerful healing energy at work in us. Because these are words that can hold our minds above negation. They can anchor us and steady us while we heal and while we move toward greater abundance and strength. Jesus of Nazareth was a mooring for the world, essentially. This energy that flowed through him, his awareness that he and God are one, the Father and I are one, gave him this ability to radiate peace and steadiness for all those around him. His influence was so powerful. He became a mooring for all those around him, a mooring that was remembered and taught and shared for generations after. We can anchor ourselves in the same way, I think. Know and affirm our connection with God, the qualities, the character, the power, the strength of God in us. A community can be a mooring, and is quite often. Churches certainly are moorings, places to anchor ourselves, principles we can work with to anchor ourselves as we go through our lives. 12-step groups, support groups of all kinds. If they're healthy, if they're principled, they can be powerful moorings for us. I read an interesting story about a Girl Scout troop. It's in New York City, Girl Scout Troop 6000. It's in Queens, the borough of Queens, and it's the first Girl Scout troop exclusively for homeless girls. And it was started in a shelter in Queens. I didn't realize that last year New York City reached an all-time high in terms of its homeless population of 60,000 people. It's kind of staggering to think. That's like a whole city, within a city, living out of shelters or on the street. 40% of those are children. 40% are children. So the city is trying to tackle it with new shelters and new approaches. And they've been taking an approach lately, really kind of tied in with my thinking about this. They're focusing on community anchors, trying to keep homeless people in neighborhoods where there are neighborhood shelters close to churches and schools, to try to maintain some continuity in people's lives as they get their feet under them and move back into homes and well-paying jobs, hopefully. So it was a modest effort. In February of just this year, the idea came up to start a Girl Scout troop for homeless girls in this shelter. It was in Queens, where 100 families with children lived in this shelter. It was a converted budget hotel of some kind. And the city council representative from that area, the Girl Scouts of Greater New York, kind of a cooperative effort, and the troop leader who volunteered to serve there had already served as a Girl Scout troop leader elsewhere, and she was currently homeless with 5 kids, a working mother of 5 kids, living in that budget hotel, that homeless shelter, and she volunteered to be the troop leader. So they started it in February, and 8 girls came, homeless girls from that shelter, and in no time at all, there were 30 girls. It kind of grew rapidly. And one can see what the tremendous draw would be. If you've lost your home and your neighborhood and maybe your friends, what a pressing thing it would be to feel like, where do I belong? Where's my community? Where do I belong? Who knows me? Who knows who I am? And not just a label of homeless or something, but knows who I am. And the Girl Scout troop gave that to these girls. You're a member of this troop. And this troop is about something. It has ideals. It's not just an empty club. The Girl Scouts have a mission. So there are a lot of public recognition since February. Apparently there was an appearance on The View. I didn't see that. I'd like to have seen that. And a lot of donations coming in to Girl Scouts of Greater New York. So over the next 3 years, they're going to invest $1 million in expanding the homeless Girl Scout troops and hoping to start troops in the other boroughs and bring in 500 more girls. That's got to have a powerful influence. They're saying that it's really, the impact is already noticeable. They're giving out merit badges, that's standard in Scouts, and they've given out the first aid merit badge already to a number of girls. They're practicing a lot of leadership skills, service activities. There's a definite sense of community and belonging. One of the little girls says, "We're like a pack. If one of us is down, the rest of us will be there to pick them back up." Isn't that sweet? A powerful sense of community and strength from that for kids and families going through a tough time. I think that's remarkable. Girl Scouts of America has a wonderful history of being a mooring. Like that new troop for homeless girls can be a mooring for them in a time when they may not feel like they have a lot of connections and a lot of grounding, a lot of anchors in their lives. They've got that each other. They've got that troop. It's always been that. How many were in Girl Scouts? And I have a woman in the. Any of you were in Girl Scouts? Yeah. It has a rich history. It was started in 1912 by a nearly deaf 51-year-old woman named Juliette Gordon Lowe, and it's now over 2.6 million girls, kind of globally. But Juliette Gordon Lowe said way back when, she said, "Truly, ours is a circle of friendships united by our ideals. Grounded in ideals about service to others, do a good turn daily." That's a Girl Scout motto, do a good turn daily. Be prepared. Wonderful models about service, about being honest and fair and helpful. Just as I suspect the Boy Scouts mottos were similar to that. I think that's a wonderful thing, that a community like that can be a mooring for girls and boys growing up. And any community can be that. And truly any individual can be a mooring because God is present and flowing through us all. And that's the source of where we get all the riches we pass on to others, isn't it? Aunt Helen with her loving kindness, and Ed Tuttle with his hold on truth, and Charles and Myrtle and their grasp on the healing energy of God that's in us. And Girl Scout troop leaders who knew about the power of recognizing each other and the intelligence and the strength and the beauty in one another. Those are all God qualities flowing through us in a way that we can be moorings for one another. And it's something we can all do, even as we benefit from and continue to ground ourselves in the moorings we have been gifted with in our lives. God in us is the unfailing mooring, the ultimate mooring, the anchor that doesn't fail us, our own connection with God in us that is with us always, that can't be severed. I wanted to close with another story by a unit minister by the name of Reverend Robert Brummett. Some of you might have read some of his work. He distinguished for a book particularly on transitions in life and moving through them. He visited here in Columbus some years back, and he told this story of being out fishing on Lake Superior. I might have shared the story before, I'm not sure. But he was with friends and they were out fishing on Lake Superior, which I think is the lake that's the deepest, it's had the richest history of shipwrecks and so on, of all the Great Lakes. But they were out fishing and a fog started rolling in. It was getting later in the day and the fog was rolling in, so they started heading back toward dock, and the fog thickened pretty quickly. And before long, they realized they really could not see where they were going. So they dropped anchor and waited out the night. They weren't expecting to spend the night out there, but they did. And it was a long, cold night. But finally, toward morning, as the light came up, they realized that the fog had lifted, and there was the dock 50 yards away. I love that story. It was right there, and they were frightened in the dark. It was 50 yards away. But that's really smart advice from that comes through that story he shared with us. In times of confusion, or we're feeling a little lost or wandering or don't really know what to do or where we are, it's best to drop anchor right there and not get further lost. Don't keep sailing off in unknown directions out of panic or because it's better to do something than nothing. Has anyone ever felt that way? Well, it's better to do something. No, it isn't. I don't think it is. I think it might be better to drop anchor and tune in to your own sense of anchoring within. The wisdom in you, the intuition in you, the guidance you've gotten through all the mentors and moorings in your life. Let them steady you and strengthen you. And then see what comes forth in terms of guidance and direction. We are blessed with a great reservoir of moorings we can draw on because we are in this together. Isn't that a blessing? We are in this together and we can be sources of guidance and support and encouragement for one another. And it's all because of God in us. God in us, the ultimate mooring that we can draw upon and steady ourselves by day throughout our lives. God is my mooring. I am anchored in goodness and truth. God is your mooring. You are anchored in goodness and truth. Let's make that personal. Say it together. God is my mooring.
God is my mooring.
I am anchored in goodness and truth.
I am anchored in goodness and truth.
Let's take that into prayer for a moment and affirm that truth within. In all times and all circumstances, no matter what is going on, we are anchored in God. God is our mooring. There is no separation between us and all the wisdom and light and peace and wholeness and love of God. We are grateful. And so it is. Amen.